Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're looking at Bosa from Funko Games and Goliath.
Bosa may be the last Funko game ever. This has got Funko Games on the box, but as you probably may or may not know, Funko Games sold out to Goliath Games. So this may be the last game that you ever see that has just the Funko Games logo on it without the Goliath logo as well. Now, what is Bosa? Well, Bosa is a town in Italy, but more in importance to this video, it's a board game in which you are going to be drawing or drafting cards from a market and playing those cards to your tableau area, in which is going to be a 4x4 grid of cards that you're going to be building, starting from the upper left corner, working your way down to the lower right corner. And as you play these cards, you're going to be activating the different actions on those cards, earning you resources, which then you'll turn into points through other actions on the cards. So you really want to be mindful of the actions that you get in your grid. But also what's important are the colors of those cards, because if you know, the town of Bosa in Italy has lots of different colored buildings, and that's what these cards represent, those different buildings. So you really want to pay attention to those colors, as it might satisfy some of your in-game goals. Let's go down to the table where I'll show you how this one works, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on it as a gamer and non-gamer. All right, I have Bosa on the table. Let me show you all about this tableau building game. Now, for components, what you have here with this one, you're going to have a scoreboard here that is going to keep track of the score, obviously. You're going to use the different colored wooden player pieces that are going to match up with the player boards. As you can see, I've got the blue clamshell player board right here, so I would be using the blue clamshell score marker here to keep track of my score. There are player boards for each of the players, and you're going to have resource trackers. You've got a fish resource, a spool of thread resource, and a pot resource. And these are wooden, and they are etched and painted. And so these are really nice little resource trackers. You do have lots of money tokens in the game, 1s and 5s. This 3D tray comes with the game. It's really nice. It fits with the theme. Unfortunately, you do have to deassemble this in order to get it to fit in the box, but otherwise it's really nice. You do have goal cards that you're going to be working towards throughout the course of the game. We'll come back to that here in a minute. First player marker here, 100 point tokens. You've got lots of cards, season 1, 2, 3, and start cards. So now, throughout the course of the game, you are not going to keep the scoreboard right here next to the player boards. You're going to be building your tableau in the area right next to your player board. So we're going to move this up a little bit to where you just see that portion of the scoreboard, because this portion right here is actually the market from which you'll be drafting cards throughout the game. And again, you'll be building your 4x4 tableau grid of cards right here in this area to the right side of your player board. Now, back to those start cards. Everybody's going to receive one start card at random from the deck. It will have a color, and then it will have something up here in the top that tells you what it gives you. This particular one is going to give me 1 fish every time I activate it. And again, it is an orange card, and that's important because as part of setup, you will receive 4 goal cards. And so let's just take a look at the top 4 right here. This one says that I'll get 8 points every time each quarter with 4 different colors. And so a quarter is going to be a 2x2 grid. You've got a 2x2 grid up here in the top left, another one in the top right, bottom left, bottom right. And this is saying that if I can have each quarter with 4 different colors, I'll get 8 points for that quarter. So I can get that 4 times the maximum. This one here, 8 points each group of 3 or more of this in the same color. 8 points each column with 4 different colors, and then this one 3 points for each row and each column with exactly 1 red card. Now, you don't have to discard any of these, but you're only going to score 2 of them at the end of the game, so obviously you want to try to know which 2 you're going to be working towards the most throughout the course of the game, and try to maximize as many times as you can complete that to get the maximum number of points. But again, you don't have to discard any of these, and so you may work towards all 4 of them and see which ones pay out the best for you. You'll keep these hidden from the other players too. Now the first card you get is going to be going in the top left corner of your 4x4 grid, and you'll be adding cards from that outwards down the rest of the grid. You do have to play these cards adjacent to other cards that are already in your grid, so just keep that in mind. Now again, you're going to be having cards right here in the market, but I'm going to not do that. I'm going to save some space here and just show you that these cards, which you'll be drawing from Season 1 in the first round. There's going to be 3 rounds if you haven't guessed. You're not going to use all of these cards either, by the way. You're going to shuffle these up and only draw a certain number depending upon the number of players in the game. But let me just show you these top 4 cards here to give you an idea. And again, these would be up here in the market, and you would be choosing which one you want on your turn. But sometimes they're going to give you money and resources. Sometimes they'll give you the option to spend money for extra resources. And so that's the examples that we have here. And as you can see, there's different colors as well. And that's important for those in-game goals that I showed you earlier. So I would draft one of these, and let's say maybe I go with this one here. And once I've drafted a card, I either have to decide to place it left or to the right of a card that's already in my grid, or below a card that's already in my grid. Now I do want to give an example here. Let's say that I place that, and then on a future turn I draw another card. I could place it here. I could place it here. However, I could not place it here, because if you go below cards, you cannot have any open spaces to the left, because again, you're always going to be placing either to the right or below. You'll never be placing to the left. And so if I want to place this one down, I have to place it as far left as it can go, in other words. And once you've played a card, then you're going to do the next step of a turn, which is to activate the cards that are in that row or column in which you just played the card. So if I played this green card right here, then I would activate this column, or I could activate the row, which would only be this one card. Let's say I activate the column. In this case, I'm going to gain 1 fish, and you do have to do these from top to bottom or left to right. So I'll gain 1 fish, and I'll move my fish marker up 1 space to signify that. And then in this case, I gain 1 resource of my choice, and let's say that I gain a spool of thread. Had I gone this way, playing this card here maybe, then I could have done all 3 cards, and I would have to do that in that order. If there's a card that I cannot do, or I choose not to do it, I can skip it, but I cannot come back to it later on once I've skipped it. So in other words, I couldn't do this card, then this card, and then come back to this card. It doesn't work that way. Now, what are you doing with all of these resources? Well, eventually there are going to be other cards that you're going to find in later seasons that are going to give you the option to exchange these resources for points. And so that's one of the main ways that you'll get your points in this game, is to build up your resources to then spend them so that you can go up on the scoreboard that I showed you earlier in the game. And once a deck of season cards has been depleted, then that will signify the end of the season, and you will move to the next way that you can get lots of points in this game, and that is patronage. So on the left, or excuse me, the right side of the scoreboard here, it shows you, it has a key right here to show you how you're going to get points in this patronage phase. You will be spending your money in either 4, 9, 15, 22, or 30 gold increments. Those are the only increments that you can spend. So if you have, let's say, 5 gold, then you have to spend 4 of it for 6 points. And yes, you do have to spend it. However, if I had 10 gold, let's say, then I could spend 9 for 12 points. And as you can see, the higher you get, the more points you're going to be getting. So this is the second major way that you'll be getting points throughout the course of the game, is spending your gold at the end of each season. There's also a glossary here that can explain to you what certain actions on cards do, which is really nice to have out there visual for everyone to see. Now you're going to leave your cards out here at the end of every season. You'll bring out the next season's cards, shuffle them up, and again, you'll only use a certain number of each of these season cards, and you'll just repeat the same process, adding more cards to your grid and activating the actions of the cards that are in the columns or rows in which you've played your cards. And this will continue until you have fully built out your 4x4 grid, having played through all 3 seasons. And then you'll see how you did on your goal cards, giving yourself points for any that you have done really well on. But again, you're only scoring 2 of these, so you'll have to disregard 2 of them at the end of the game. But that's pretty much the gist of it. Whoever has the most points after 3 seasons is going to be the winner, and that's how you play Bosa. Now let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back. So let's get to Bosa from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. So Sam, Funko Games have long made a lot of licensed games, which are fun, but they've also made some really stellar strategy, family weight type games that just have really clicked with us here on Love to Hate. And this is their latest entry. And unfortunately, as I said at the beginning of the video, this may be their last entry. And when we saw it at Barnes & Noble, that's where we picked up this copy. Had to have it. Had to check it out.
Had to have it.
I had to have it.
I never said we have to have it.
I wanted to see what it was about, though. And I'm glad we got it. I like this game. I think this is a very solid game. But let's get into what you think about it. So opening up, seeing these colorful cards, seeing the different coins, and that 3D coin tray was really nice. What did you think about this one?
When I first saw it or playing it, I mean, it's a very pretty game. It seemed interesting with all the cards and the houses or the doors, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they're the fronts of the building.
Yeah. But it definitely didn't look too busy or too complicated.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it is a Funko game in the sense that it's maybe light to medium, you know, like family level strategy kind of game that might have a little twists and little, you know, differences in it, because you can tell that it is a gamer game, but it's also a game that could work for non-gamers too. And I think that kind of hits the mark with this one too. What do you think about that? Is it kind of that same level of strategy?
I would say mid.
Okay.
It's definitely mid strategy, mid to lower high. I don't know.
Okay.
I felt it was one of those that burned my brain a little bit.
Okay.
I'll have more to say later.
Okay, yeah. I'm thinking maybe what you might be getting to with that is that your tableau, this is a tableau building game in the sense that what actions I do in the beginning change as I start putting more stuff in, and now I've got different actions that I can use. But what's different with this tableau builder is that you lose access to other actions as the game progresses.
And the end game goals. You are kind of thinking about multiple things at once. But
right. Yeah. And that is a fun aspect of it too, having to be mindful of if I take this card, which I really like, but it's not the right color, then it can really just kind of mess everything up. So that's one thing that's really unique about this game. Okay, so let's get to pros and cons here with Bosa. Let's talk about the bullet point highlights that work well for you with this particular one.
I mean, I really like the tableau building. It's a very basic. Some games, I do like tableau building, but it has to be a certain kind, because if it gets too complicated, it just becomes too much. You can't remember everything that you can do. And I found that this was a very unique way of doing it. You're building across and down, but you have to do it in a certain order.
Right.
And as you play it, determines how you're using it. And your first card essentially is used twice, and that's it.
Well, you use it more than that, but like it's going to be the first.
Sorry, your last card.
Your last card.
Yeah,
only used twice.
Near the end, you're like, I'm playing this, and it's going to be great, and it's one time, and you're done. So the last in every column and the last in every row, it's getting used that one time. Yeah,
and I think with that there's a lot of decisions that you have to make when you're drafting those cards. And what's unique about this one, like you said, it's a unique tableau builder. A lot of tableau builders have to go through so many steps to build this tableau, whereas this is a game where you don't do that. You get to just build your tableau.
Yeah, you get to use it like, okay, it's small, but I'm using this and this, and then I'm using this as this, and then this, and this.
Right. And the way you build it out dictates how you do throughout the course of the game.
Yeah.
And again, going back to something we said earlier, the way that you lose access to some of your cards, because once you've completed a row or once you've completed a column, you're not using those cards much anymore for the rest of the game. And so you start those cards that you put in the top left corner, enjoy them for the first half of the game, you're not going to use them the second half of the game. And I like that aspect because it's like it provides that opportunity of, man, I didn't do so hot the first half. Now I'm going to you know, crank it up and play better the second half and get back into the game. So it does provide not a catch-up mechanic because it's up to you to make better choices, but you have that opportunity to kind of turn things around. So I like that with this one. Anything about it that maybe just doesn't work so well?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a game or what, but usually if there's in-game goals, I am very focused on that.
Okay.
And this one, I think there's so much focus going into building your tableau that I had a really hard time with the in-game goals.
Okay.
I didn't meet most of mine.
Okay.
And it didn't ending up benefiting me. I do feel like at a certain point, you're far enough behind that you're not going to catch up. Now there was, I do, like Lance said, in the middle, like the person who was losing, there is a kind of a catch up. But then near the end, when everyone's doing their in-game goals and stuff, I don't feel like I benefited much from that.
I kind of do agree with you a little bit that there are some, and this could be true of all of the in-game goals depending on how you play, but there are points in the game where you have to kind of make the decision, is this even going to give me enough points for me to keep still going for it?
Or do I draw this card that it makes me not meet my end-game goal, but ultimately it's going to give me more points.
It gives me more points throughout the duration of the game.
And I think that's where my brain was.
And that's the really tough decisions that you got to make in this one. But the thing about it is, you know, with it being a drafty game and the random element of the cards coming out, you're making an imperfect decision. And there can be times when you feel like, it was a crapshoot, right? Like, I didn't know what was going to come out. I went with the decision to go with this card, which completely, you know, shoots out this in-game goal. I can just throw it away now because it's done for. I can't do it. And then the exact card that I would have needed to make that in-game goal comes on the very next turn.
It is very much like you're just sitting there waiting. And at a certain point, you're like, this is all that's there. There's no, like...
Yeah, you do have to make a choice to just say, you know what, I'm not going for that. I'm going to go for what I can get right now, or vice versa, right? Like you say, no, I'm going to put this off. I'm going to keep the in-game goal in mind, and I'm going to go for the card that's not as great.
My in-game goals was... one red in each column and each row. But it came down to like my last two cards, and I'm like, if a red doesn't come out,
I'm not gonna get those points.
I can't get it. And it's no, I mean, it is a fault. I could have done it earlier, but you know.
Well, it is. It's luck of the draw, and that there is a big factor of getting your points based off of what comes out in the market. So you could say this is a lucky dependent game.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would go so far to say that it is luck dependent, but it does definitely have a factor of whatever comes out in the market can dictate how some of your choices are going to play out for you. But I do still think this is very much a strategy game because of how you build up your tableau, right? Like, are you finding an engine with the things that you're putting in your tableau? Because that's where you get a lot of the meat of your points throughout the game part itself. It's just the in-game goals may not work out for you, right? So... Okay, let's get to our scores for this one. So scale of 1 to 10, love to hate. Where does Bosa come in at?
I like it. It's one of those games where I'm like, I liked it, but I'm afraid if I played it again, I would do so much worse. Like, I don't know if it was like...
Just be ready to light it on fire.
Yeah. But I did like it, and I do want to play it again. I'd probably give it an 8.1.
Oh, okay. So you like it pretty well.
I did like it. I liked the strategy. I think the theme was up my alley.
Okay.
I'm not a big theme person, so I think this is kind of you don't have to know anything about Bosa. It's colors. It's a little bit abstract.
It is. It
Almost,
is abstract. Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah, I do like the way it looks. You know, I like the bright colors, and I get what you're saying. Like those bright colors fit with the Bosa.
It almost looks like tiles.
Yeah, it does. It kind of does. Yeah, you're right. But I like the tableau action. It's almost like action selection a little bit because you're picking where you want to put this card in your tableau, and so that determines what actions you get to do. So I like that aspect of it. I do think, like we said, luck plays a factor with this, so that tempers my score just a little bit for this one. But all in all, I'm going to give this a 7.7. It's a pretty solid game for me. High sevens, which means you want to play this game, and I'm down to play it.
Yeah.
I'm down to teach you this game. Don't think it would be leaving my collection anytime soon, unless I had, unless if it was in our camper. Which, if you don't know, we got in a wreck recently, and we lost a lot of our games.
We lost our camper.
We lost our camper. Had a lot of our travel games. This could be a travel game. It doesn't take up a whole bunch of space,
a little
but
too big.
it is a bigger box for a travel game, I guess. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. So, but it's a solid game. So, 8.1, 7.7. That's our thoughts here on Bosa from Funko Games and Goliath. Leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think about this one.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.